Hey everybody, Wolf Lord Rho here. So Horus Week rumbles on, and today we take a look at Horus reflecting on his brother Primarchs, his possible jealousy of Guilliman, the respect he had for Ferrus Manus, and the strain of being Warmaster, and how it changed his opinion of his brothers as time passed. Spoiler warning to begin, I will be referencing the audio drama Warmaster and the Horus Heresy novels The Vengeful Spirit and False Gods, so you have been warned. I will put a link to all of these on the Black Library website in the description as always. But with that said, let's just jump straight in. Now this is a really fascinating look at the mindset of Horus Lupercal, and I believe really shows us just how much the appointment of Warmaster became his undoing. Because let's be real here, we're not talking about just any Primarch, but quite possibly the most confident and complete Primarch in Horus Lupercal, and that even he felt the pressure of the title of Warmaster, and this more so than anything affected the way he looked upon his brothers, whether he realised it or not. And it really becomes evident early on in the series, as this passage from False Gods shows. The responsibility lies with me. Throne. Guilliman will laugh when he hears of this. Him and the Lion both. They will say I was not fit to be Warmaster, since I could not read the hearts of men. Never, cried Petronella. They wouldn't dare. Oh, they will, girl. Believe me. We are brothers, yes. But like all brothers, we squabble and seek to outdo one another. Petronella could think of nothing to say, the idea of the superhuman Primarchs squabbling quite beyond her. They were jealous, all of them, continued Horus. When the Emperor named me Warmaster, it was all some of them could do to congratulate me. Angron especially, he was a wild one, and even now I can barely keep him in check. Guilliman wasn't much better. I could tell he thought it should have been him. They were jealous of you? Asked Petronella, unable to believe what the Warmaster was telling her, the memo quill scratching across the data slate in response to her thoughts. Oh yes, nodded Horus bitterly. Now let's just take that first line. Guilliman will laugh when he hears of this. Him and the Lion both. They will say that I was not fit to be Warmaster. Horus's first thought is how Guilliman is going to react. Him and the Lion. How they are going to laugh, as if in Horus's mind he already has it set that they are just waiting for him to make a mistake to jump on and run to the Emperor saying, I told you so. They will say that I was not fit to be Warmaster. These words scream something you would never ever have expected to say in relation to Horus Lupercal. At least not the Lupercal of old. Self-doubt. Angron is an interesting statement. Was Angron truly jealous of the title of Warmaster? I don't think so. He just didn't like being told what to do by anybody. Even the Emperor's orders could barely control Angron. So what chance did Horus ever truly have? Angron was always a loose cannon, and Horus should have known that. Guilliman wasn't much better. I could tell he thought it should have been him. Horus really fixating on Guilliman here, and as we continue you'll see Guilliman appears to play on Horus's thoughts quite a bit. It certainly appears that Horus is projecting his own jealousy onto Guilliman, because we see in Guilliman's own thoughts that he never truly desired the position of Warmaster. But Horus continues on. Only a few of my brothers were gracious enough to bow their heads and mean it. Lorgar, Mortarion, Sanguinius, Fulgrim and Dawn. They are true brothers. I remember watching the Emperor's Stormbird leaving Ulanor and weeping to see him go. But most of all, I remember the knives I felt in my back as he went. I could hear their thoughts as clearly as though they spoke them aloud. Why should I, Horus, be named Warmaster when there were others more worthy of the honour? A couple of points there. Firstly, the brothers he felt were true brothers. Lorgar, Mortarion, Sanguinius, Fulgrim and Dawn. I think it's safe to say Horus had a better relationship before his appointment with all of these, rather than Guilliman and the Lion. And more importantly, none of these are accepted to have had a better Great Crusade record than either of those two. Now, of course, the screams of "hang on a minute, what about Sanguinius?" First and foremost, Sanguinius was by far Horus's best friend, at least at this point. Horus would never distrust Sanguinius. He knows of the flaw in Sanguinius's gene seed. They were truly close brothers. And if we're going to be really critical, Sanguinius is never mentioned as prosecuting a campaign as well as Guilliman or the Lion. Only once Chaos gets its hands into Horus does he truly start worrying about Sanguinius, and that's more because he knows the Chaos Gods would prefer him. Secondly, he began to feel the knives in his back pretty much instantly, which I really feel highlights why he mentions Guilliman and the Lion in particular, because Horus was already judging himself against them, long before his appointment as Warmaster, striving to have a better crusade record than either of them. Guilliman has the biggest legion, an empire of 500 worlds, and the Lion and his legion are the first, a title that no other Primarch can match. Both of their legions were big rivals to the Lunar Wolves during the Crusade. But then we move on to the audio drama Warmaster, and in this Horus is venting his thoughts to the skull of his brother Ferrus Manus, who as we know was slain by Fulgrim at Istvan. Now this is after False Gods and the heresy has broken out, so we have moved along in the timeline. The angel's wings were supposed to lay broken at my feet. How quickly Horus's opinion on his brother Sanguinius has changed. His plans to remove the Blood Angels Legion from play has failed, but there's a big difference from being Warmaster of the Imperium and Warmaster for Chaos. Yes, Horus felt Sanguinius was more loved by his brothers, but he didn't truly see him as a rival then, judging by his fears we have already been over. For Chaos though, he did. And I think that's more down to Sanguinius the individual than Sanguinius the commander. Firstly, he already knows of Sanguinius's flaw. And secondly, he knows if any Primarch has a better chance of beating the Emperor in a fight, then it's Sanguinius. He then continues to reference Guilliman again. Calf burned, yet our brother lives. Rebute. Wise Rebute. Rebute with his scratching quills and his plans and his hope. Too understanding. Too strong. Too damned perfect. I wish he was with us. I really think this passage solidifies the feeling of Horus very much being jealous of Guilliman. Before we saw him projecting his own possible jealousy onto him, and here he really lays it plain. Too understanding, too strong, too damned perfect. Horus then continues in his thoughts, showcasing his doubts on the abilities of Alfarius and Lorgar. You would say that I listen too much to Alfarius and Lorgar, that a war fought with deceit is doomed to fail. Perhaps you would be right. The Hydra does not see all, and now his blindness places a knife at his own back. Corax would not have made such an error. So doubts on Alfarius and Lorgar, but a clear respect for Corax. That's quite interesting because Corax and Horus were not on the best of terms, but clearly Horus retained a lot of respect for Corax's abilities. And then we have Horus lamenting the traitor Primarchs that are by his side. Strange is it not, that so many I wish beside me stand against me, while at my back are only the flawed and the damaged. I am a master of broken monsters. I cannot control them or their sons, and they know it. Mortarion and Perturabo and the rest. No other would have dared this, not even you. Perhaps that is why our father chose me. Perhaps that was his only moment of honesty. I am a master of broken monsters. The true feelings of Horus in regards to his fellow traitor Primarchs. Fulgrim, Kurz, Angron, Perturabo, Mortarion, Alfarius, Lorgar and Magnus. So many of the brothers he wanted are against him. How different the heresy would have been had these Primarchs turned instead. That's quite an interesting point to consider. What if the Primarchs were reversed? Would the traitors have won? I mean, it does feel like the loyal brothers are the better group of Primarchs. But hey, we all know I'm biased in that regard. A very specific choice of words as well there in reference to his brother Ferrus. Not even you, clearly holding him in very high regard. Compare that to the disdain with which he had earlier spoken of Mortarion and Perturabo. It's worlds apart. Now later in the novel Vengeful Spirit, we get another glimpse of Horus's feelings on his brothers, and once more he has a high level of praise for Guilliman. Can you imagine any of my brothers mastering so chaotic an endeavour as war as I do? No sir. Horus waved an admonishing finger. Come on Mal, you're better than that. Stop sounding like a sycophant. Answer honestly. Malagurst bowed and said, Perhaps Guilliman? Too obvious, said Horus. Some think he has no heart for war. That all he cares about are grand plans and stratagems. They're wrong. He knows war as well as I do. He just wishes he didn't. Out of all the Primarchs, it certainly appears Horus classed Guilliman as one of his strongest rivals. The jealousy he felt almost instantly upon being appointed Warmaster, the lamenting that Guilliman is on the opposite side during the early stages of the heresy, and here further on we see he still considers him a strong threat. Man, it would have been great to see a Guilliman-Horus confrontation, but we know it's never destined to be. Unless of course we can get a return in the current timeline. Oh man, can you imagine that? I know a ton of you just had a heart attack on how it should never happen, but can you imagine a return of Horus Lupercal, loyal or traitor, to the current timeline? Oh man. But back on point, Horus continues on. Then perhaps Dawn? No, too hidebound, said Horus. Nor the Lion or Vulcan, and not the Khan, though he and I are so very close in alignment. Then who? Ferrus, answered Horus, tapping the lid on the ornately wrought box of lacquered wooden iron next to him. If he was so capable, then why is he dead? I didn't say he was perfect, said Horus, but he knew war like no other. Terror would already be ours if he had joined us. If my Phoenician brother had handled the approach with a modicum of subtlety. So some disregard for Dawn, the Lion, Vulcan, and even the Khan in regards to their understanding of war, which is especially interesting considering his earlier feelings in regards to the Lion, that the Lion looked down upon him and laughed at his mistakes, yet here he's confident the Lion doesn't have the same level of understanding he does. And I bet many of you are quite surprised to hear Horus's viewpoint on Guilliman having a better understanding of war than say Dawn or the Khan. And then the respect for Ferrus showing again, that terror would already be theirs if Fulgrim hadn't have messed things up. That's some pretty high praise going the Gorgon's way there, and shows that Horus's opinion of his brother was right up there with his feelings about Guilliman. It's such a shame Ferrus died so early in the heresy, because his character has really improved in recent years, with the more attention that it's received. He's not just seen as some stubborn oaf, and with Horus's feelings on Ferrus here, it'd be great to see that expanded upon with a great crusade story, with the two of them on campaign together. Show us why Horus has such respect for him. We know Ferrus was one of the very earliest Primarchs found, so it's understandable his relationship with Horus would have been one of the better ones, or at least more respectful. They would have had ample opportunity to campaign together. But what are your thoughts about it, guys? Do you agree with Horus's views on his brothers? Why do you think he thinks so strongly about Guilliman? Was he jealous of him? Was he jealous of the Lion? Why do you think he had such respect for Ferrus Manus? Would Terra truly have fallen sooner with the Gorgon by his side? And do you think his appointment as Warmaster could have ever truly succeeded with all the doubts that were in his mind? As always, drop your thoughts in the comments below. I love to read them. A huge thank you to all my subscribers. Your support really means a lot to me. It truly does. And if you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too? But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.